Children and Inappropriate Content. This is a presentation for senior design. It's also publicly available on YouTube for anybody that wants to see. I'm your host, John, and let us begin. So many of us, or at least most of us, will have one child or multiple children in their life, and we're going to have to decide what we want them to be able to see or not to see. And many parents have decided that they do not want their children to be able to see violent, pornographic, hateful material anywhere. Now, back in the day, this was kind of easy to block your children from seeing, because you would know what books were bad, or you would just know what places not to take them to. But with the advent of the internet, it's kind of opened, this Pandora's box of now they can see anything. And you may not know about it. They may never tell you. And so parents have decided to be proactive. And as a result, an entire industry has started dedicated to blocking this information from coming in contact with children's eyes. And the advent of smartphones only made this more difficult, because now the children not only can do it anywhere, whereas before they had to be at a desk with their computer. Now they can take their phone and they can have conversations with friends, and they can have conversations with strangers too, and they can talk about and share whatever they want, and their parents may never know about it. And however, this industry has they do have blockers for smartphones, but smartphones has made it more difficult. So back in 2003, I believe, there was a Child Internet Protection Act, and this act basically stated any library that was receiving federal funding for internet use would have to install filters that would block children from seeing harmful material. Now, this didn't mean that you could not view harmful material on a library computer. For instance, say you're an adult and you want to see pornographic material or violent material for whatever reason, you would go up to the librarian in charge and ask them to unlock it so you could see it, and they would then unlock the filter for you. So it didn't block the viewing of it, but it was meant to block it for children. This spurred a Supreme Court case, United States versus American Library Association, where it was argued, did this law prohibit First Amendment rights? The people who claimed that this law did prohibit First Amendment rights, they claimed that this law would stigmatize anybody who, say you were an adult, say you wanted to see pornographic material for whatever reason, research, whatever, and you went up to the librarian and asked them to unlock. This would stigmatize you, as in you'd be uncomfortable doing it, so you wouldn't feel the need. You wouldn't want to do it at all at a library, because you just would feel stigmatized. Now, on the other hand, these filters could also block non-harmful sites, because say the filter is very broad and it takes no chances, zero tolerance. It could block useful sites. However, on the opposing side, it was argued that, X-rated material it was argued that X-rated material is not protected by free speech, and that it's not part of the discourse, it's not necessary, it's not needed, and libraries do not have X-rated magazines for you to loan out or borrow. So why would a library want to go out and allow people to just view X-rated material on the computer if the library itself does not offer X-rated magazines? And the Supreme Court took the side of those who said, consequences of the Child Internet Protection Act. While most of these we did discuss in the previous slide, I would like to bring to light the last bullet point there, which is the blocking of sites that may be associated with minority political views. Now, if we go back to the last slide for a second here, the definition of what was considered harmful content was discussed as pornography, hate groups, violence, illegal activity, extremist groups, and online advertising. Now, pornography and violence, maybe give those a pass, but with hate groups and extremist groups, I think you run into a gray area where some hate groups. This is actually an ongoing debate in today's society where some people hold opinions which are considered hateful by others, which the people who hold it do not consider hateful. And I could see how an act like this could reignite that conversation. So yeah. Now I just wanted to talk for a second here about the filters that are used. So you have two methods when it comes to a filter. You could one check the URL, and what this would do is it would take the URL of the website and it would run it against a list of sites that are blacklisted. And if that URL, the domain falls in that, it would just block that site entirely. Now you have method two, which might be a little bit better, but still runs into problems, where you could search for combinations of letters or words that may indicate a site has objectionable content. I assume this would also check a blacklist, and if those letters or words are in there, then that site would be blocked and the children wouldn't be able to see it. Now, both of these have pitfalls. With method one, you run into issues where it's very broad, and there could be parts of the site that are legitimate, but the whole domain's blocked and you can't go on the whole site, and that could cause issues. Okay, so ElsaGate. ElsaGate was an incident that happened on YouTube a few years back. So one may not know this, but there's a section of YouTube that is relegated just for kids to access. This is called YouTube Kids. And in order for a content creator to make content for YouTube Kids, they have to meet a certain set of guidelines, and then they're allowed to make the content. Now, filters are used to block more adult content from the kids seeing it. But this incident here will kind of put into light how effective those filters were. So what happened is we had YouTube channels that would use characters popular in media, such as Elsa from the movie Frozen and Spider-Man, and it would also feature other characters like Star Wars characters. It's called ElsaGate because Elsa from Frozen was the most prominent person. However, these videos were caught promoting sexual content, and these videos were deemed child-friendly, and kids were watching these videos, and it wasn't until a bunch of other people started seeing this and called them out that this issue was addressed by YouTube, and these videos were subsequently removed, but this was going on for a while with nobody noticing anything. And these videos, some of them are still get uploaded to this day. It was never found out who exactly was behind these videos, but this was just an issue. And if we go to the next slide here, this is just an example of videos that were on YouTube Kids that any of these kids could have seen. So here we have on the left here, Maleficent fart in Spider-Man's face, and then we have Elsa in the middle one there, where she seems to be getting caressed by a man. And if you look at the recommended videos on the right of that picture, you'll see them in rather suggestive positions. And then at the bottom there, you see it at the bottom right, we'll see Spider-Man with a gun, and then in the related videos we see Elsa shooting Spider-Man and more Spider-Man getting farts in the face. Which, yeah, and kids were able to see this on YouTube Kids, and a lot of parents had no idea what was going on because they trusted the filters to do their job, and while the filters didn't do their job. So yes, and this brings in a gray area. So you have sites like Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and Reddit, which, in the case of Instagram, it doesn't explicitly allow pornography. In fact, if you post pornography, you are banned. But it does allow models to come on and be in provocative poses, wearing skimpy clothing, and be in suggestive positions, which children will have access to. Instagram is a very popular app, and so is Twitter. And Twitter also blatantly allows pornography. You can have pornography on Twitter and YouTube. I mean, we just saw a previous issue with YouTube with the YouTube Kids section, but also YouTube. While you're not allowed to have pornography on YouTube, you can have suggestive content, which we'll showcase in the next slide. But you can also have models and provide, which kids can also have access to. And the site Reddit also allows explicit content. And these sites make up a huge portion of the internet. Now, you can ask yourself, do we want to put filters in place that block all these sites? And if you're doing that, you're really blocking a large chunk of the internet. And I think you run into issues where are you doing more harm than good? So, yeah. Now, here we have on the left, this is actually from the Instagram page of Dan Bilzerian. Here he is with women. As you can see on the right, the women are wearing pasties. While this is allowed by Instagram's terms of service, they are somewhat clothed. I'm sure that there are some parents that would not want their children seeing this. Now, if you look at the right here, these are a series of YouTube videos, which you can view right now on YouTube. Nobody will stop you. Here's a kissing prank, kissing my actual sister. And if you look at the bottom there, I don't know what's going on in the video, but it claims that there is a hot sex prank. How that is a prank, I do not know. But yeah. So I wasn't originally going to bring this one up, but sexting. This one, it sparked my interest. So there was no high school incident that was brought up in the book where there was a student who had a girlfriend, and the girlfriend sent him nudes, just naked pictures of her, and they broke up. And so in retaliation, the boy sent a bunch of these naked pictures that his girlfriend sent to other people. Now, an assistant principal by the name of Tingy Oe was tasked with finding the culprit. This led him to a student who then showed him the pictures. The assistant principal then, with the picture, sent them to the principal, and the principal told the assistant principal to save them to his computer. Now, this was his first mistake. So the assistant principal tells the student, if you continue doing this, you'll be suspended. Anyways, fast forward, the student continues doing this. The student is then suspended. The parents do not like this, so they go to the police with this. The police then go to the assistant principal's office, and then they find the naked photos, which he was told by his supervisor saved to his computer. Now, these photos weren't actually naked photos. The girl was covering her breast, and she was wearing panties, but it was considered child pornography, and the assistant principal was later tried and he had to register as a sex offender. However, the assistant principal, he fought this, and it was eventually the charges were dropped, but it ruined his reputation. And the student was found for doing this, and he had to report as a sex offender when they got back to him, the police did. So this brings up a question that is kind of a gray area. Should minors be prosecuted for child pornography? And that a student who gets naked photos from his girlfriend or boyfriend, should they be prosecuted for having child pornography? I really don't have an answer to this, but I think this is a good cause of debate here. Now, as for how parents should manage their children, I think the best way is proper parenting. We can rely on filters, which will fail, as we showed with ElsaGate and just what you can see on Instagram and YouTube. Or we can rely on good parenting and teaching our kids common sense and, letting them know that, yeah, there is bad content out there, but teaching them how to deal with it instead of just hoping and praying they'll never see it. And that is it for this presentation. Thank you.